Good morning, everyone. My name is Kaylee Gonzalez. I'm one of the applications experts, and I'm based out of our Phoenix office. And I did actually work in the field of metrology before joining MLC. What I'm going to talk to you about today is SOLIDWORKS inspection. And this product is specifically designed to streamline the creation of those first article inspection reports and automate and prepare your drawings for that inspection process. There are some default templates that are included with the software that adhere to the AS9102, one of the sheets on the PPAP, and the ISO 13485 standards. All of the report output is directly to Microsoft Excel, and we'll also talk about some of the input measurement data options that Michael talked about. Now, there are a couple of items here. The way that SOLIDWORKS inspection is packaged as a license is a little bit different than other SOLIDWORKS products. With one license of inspection, you have access to both the add-in that works inside of SOLIDWORKS and works on native SOLIDWORKS files, and you also have access to the standalone product. The standalone product does not need SOLIDWORKS installed, and it also does not have the graphical requirements that SOLIDWORKS CAD has. So it's very versatile in being able to work on multiple types of computers and platforms. The standalone system is what I call a CAD agnostic software, in that it's going to use a lot more generic file types. We're going to take a look today at the PDF and then also at the DWG file type. And the two asterisk items that you're seeing, both are in the professional package. So just to be clear, whether you are considering standard or professional, the add-in is going to be the same in both. There's no change in the add-in between standard and professional, and the professional package is going to have that ability to enter measured data and CMM import in the standalone only. So I'm going to cover the add-in first. Take a look at that functionality. I'm going to show you the standalone so you can see and compare the difference between the two, and then also briefly talk about the measurement input options toward the end. So with the add-in, I'm going to cover the project creation, how to automatically add balloons to the drawing, and then output that documentation. So if I jump into SOLIDWORKS, I have opened a regular SOLIDWORKS drawing. Now with inspection being an add-in, you're going to see a tab appear at the top with all of your inspection tools to start ballooning this project. So I'm going to create a new inspection project, choose my project template, which is going to establish things such as units and precision. And from here, I can start entering data. The more data that we can enter into the inspection product, the more that's going to be automatically exported into your Excel first article inspection report. Now here, you can always type these values in, but we don't want to have that human error or run the risk of having inconsistent data. So we can choose to go into some of these custom properties that exist inside of my model and simply pull from this existing data. Just being able to leverage a lot of the existing work that a designer would have already done for us. And in this way, things are going to be very clear and they're going to be very consistent. We can choose from a list of vendors. This list is customizable. We can choose which vendor this is associated to, choose our job number, and if we have any additional information that we want to add, such as possibly material, again, we can link this into custom properties to make sure everything is going to stay up to date, even if changes were made. Once we've established a lot of that generic property information, we're going to go down into our characteristic information. This is how we tell the system how we want the ballooning process to go. Now, there's two main extraction processes that we can choose from. We can choose an automatic or we can choose a manual process. For our example today, I'm going to choose the automatic. We can also choose our remaining sampling size as well to finish out a lot of that data. If I go into the next screen, I now have full control over the filters that I have to determine what gets ballooned. So this is going to include dimensions, GD&T, hole callouts, welds, surface finishes, and I can even choose some of my basic and default precision values based on precision if it hasn't already been specified on the drawing. And so from here, we're going to click OK, and we're going to let SOLIDWORKS go through the drawing and start ballooning all of our data that we have here. Doesn't take too long for it to go through this process. All of the information is being compiled on the left inside of your characteristic tree. All of this information, whether it's dimensions, the GD&T callouts, are actually going to be pulled in with all of the datum reference frames. So there's no need to have to recreate that type of information. Navigating between the balloons and between all of this other information is quite simple. At any point, we can right-click, we can zoom directly into specific selections and see what those items are referencing. They'll be highlighted as well. With all of the characteristic information that was gathered, we have additional properties per that individual characteristic. We can choose if we want this to be selected to be included. If this grabbed too much information, we can always exclude certain balloon types while maintaining that numbering. This is going to give me my nominal value, my tolerance. It's going to automatically calculate my upper and lower limits for me. And I could even make this a key characteristic. This is going to change the balloon slightly and update the rest of my balloons and numbering scheme. I can add comments. There's different types of operations. Again, this is giving you an opportunity to enter a lot of this information before we export it out. Now, if we go through this and we have these balloons here, adding information to the drawing, making changes is very simple. If I zoom into this top view and decide to add a couple of dimensions, what we can then do is simply update our inspection project. So SOLIDWORKS is going to go through the information that's there and any information that has been added, and it's going to give me an option whether I want to add that or not. Where we're going to see that is over here on the side. If anything was deleted, it would show in red. Anything was modified, it'll show in orange. And in this case, we see in green items that have been added. And we can then accept those annotation changes and have the system reballoon to include those in my data. So design changes, revision changes are very fast, very simple. Once we get to this point, I'm ready to export directly to Excel. Now, these templates are default to the system, but it's going to give you an idea of how this is going to automatically export. This is going to compile all of this information, and we'll see an example of what this is going to look like. So all of our characteristics, all of our different versions, our GD&T, they come in very seamlessly into Excel. And at this point, you do have the full functionality of Excel. You can add results here. You can add your own color coding or analysis, depending on what you want. But this is a great example of how this is going to automatically import. So with the add-in, we took a look at the fast and automatic ballooning capability. If you are used to SOLIDWORKS, this is a very familiar environment. So the learning curve is going to be quite short. And that export is directly to Excel. The next item that I want to take a look at is the standalone product. And what we're going to take a look at here, again, is project creation. I'm going to show you two different types of technology. I'm going to show you the optical character recognition for PDFs and the Smart Extract tool for DWGs. And then, again, how we can do these revision changes to leverage our existing work. So I'm going to move into the inspection standalone product. And I'm going to create a brand new project. Again, choosing my project template is going to specify a lot of my project options. And I'm going to open a PDF of the exact same drawing that we were working on previously. Now, a little note about the interface here. because I'm working on one monitor on the webinar, it's going to look like I'm running out of space, but just be aware that this table manager, we have some other properties, this CMM import, all of this can be undocked and spread nicely over 2 or 3 monitors, so it's a little bit easier to see. But from here, let's go ahead and start grabbing a lot of our project information. And I'm going to start on my title block. Again, these general settings, I'm going to start populating. Now, we're going to notice that I have this little lightning bolt here. I am still using this optical character extraction and recognition. When we start using this, think of the software as grabbing a snapshot of whatever you drag a box around. So if I drag a box around this number, it's going to automatically pull in and populate that information. And from here, we could start filling in all of these different values based on what our project requires. What I'm going to do from here is start ballooning some of the actual information inside of this PDF. And I'm going to start with some of these dimensions with their tolerances already applied. So I can go into my OCR extraction and choose what type of extraction that I want. This is going to help the software recognize certain features such as the plus minus sign, radius symbols, diameter symbols, things of that nature. Again, I drag a box around what I want to capture, and it's going to grab a snapshot. Based on what I've selected, the system knows this is a dimension, it's a length, the units were specified in the template, and it's going to give me my full specification, my nominal value, plus my tolerancing and my upper and lower limits. And it's going to start populating this characteristic tree here at the bottom. So the items in this characteristic tab, those are what is going to be automatically exported to Excel. So every time we grab a dimension and we start adding balloons, we're going to see that it's going to populate. And we can see all of this information here as well. Now, if I want to grab some additional items, I can do this also. Again, still inside of my dimension, grab this diameter. Again, we can see that this is grabbing the diameter, specified it correctly. It knows that there's a specific quantity, and it's still pulling my nominal and my tolerancing values. Now, when I go to actually inspect this, I will typically want 3 separate line items because I'm actually going to physically inspect this 3 times. I can use my iteration button and automatically create the additional lines that I need for this. Now, if we want the GD&T, there is an option here for grabbing that geometric tolerance. And I'm going to go ahead and save this so we don't get that error or the message recurring. When I grab that geometric tolerance, the system knows it's a geometric tolerance. It's not necessarily going to pull all of this information in from the snapshot, but in order to make the output as crisp and clean as we can use our datum reference tools to make sure that this datum reference frame is going to appear the way we need it to. And we can easily add that into our PDF and into our characteristic tree. And from here, we can go ahead and start ballooning the rest of these items. What you may have noticed at this point is this is a very manual process compared to what you saw in the add-in. Part of that is due to working with a PDF. It's a very non-intelligent document. Still a lot of time savings here. But if you have the ability to work off of DWGs, there's a lot of companies that I'm finding where they can simply request DWGs or DXFs instead of PDFs, And this can actually speed up this process even faster. So let's take a look at an example of using that additional file type. I'm going to start a new project, and this time bring in a DWG. Again, this is going to be the same model, just a little bit different file format. And what you can see here is I already have some dynamic highlighting. There's a little bit more intelligence built into these types of documents. And again, let's start grabbing some of this information. Notice how I don't have to draw boxes around items. I can simply select what I want. Even with items like material, I can grab that information. What I can do further from here is I can start utilizing my Smart Extract tool. Click OK on that. And I can actually start dragging boxes around items. And this is going to really start going really fast as far as this ballooning process. Everything is still going to be maintained in here. If I zoom in on some of these other options, I still have the flexibility that I can choose things individually and start populating them as well. So whether we want to grab a bunch of items in bulk, or if we want to just start grabbing a lot of these dimensions. So once we have a lot of this information that's already been specified, we can take a look at what this looks like here. Now we're grabbing a lot of information all at once, and there may be items such as number 16 where that's actually my datum A. I don't necessarily need that. I can easily reorder, delete items. When I delete these, the numbering is going to automatically update so I'm not missing a digit. And it's very easy to reorganize and capture all of this information. So once I have my information specified, again, I have the ability that I can export this to Excel. Again, we'll let the system go through and populate everything. And we'll see an example again of what this looks like. Another advantage, if you do have the option to use a DWG, is that it will pull in all of the geometric tolerancing automatically. You don't have to recreate them like we did with the PDF. Just a little bit different technology here. Now, let's say we go through all this work and we have items that have been exported out and we have a design change. Let's take a look at what this is going to look like. Inside of a DWG, you have this import revision CAD file. If you are using a PDF, this compare option will be highlighted and that's what you would use. So you can do the same thing with a PDF. I'm going to click on my import CAD file. This is going to want me to save it in order to bring that in. And then it's going to prompt me for my revised DWG file, which I can simply bring in. Now it's going to bring it in and start detecting changes. And I'm going to choose this to help automate any revision and any changes that are here. So what we're actually noticing is we have a couple of items in green, which are new annotations that were not in the previous file. And we have an item that has actually changed. If we had something that was deleted, it would show up in red. So we have the option to see in color coding what changes have been made to this document, and we have the option that we can either accept or even choose not to accept something if it was just like a typo, something of that nature. And with that, notice how all of our balloons automatically updated. Everything in my characteristic tree is automatically updated. And all we would have to do at this point is re-export our Excel sheet just to include the new and changed data. So revisions are very simple, very streamlined, and definitely allow you to leverage the work you've done and all of that existing data. So inside of this snapshot of the standalone product, we saw a couple different extraction tools. We saw the OCR for PDFs and the Smart Extract for DWGs and 2D file types. Not only are we able to really streamline the process of ballooning and preparing the drawings for inspection, but revisions are very, very simple with this product. Now, the last item that I want to take a look at is some of the measurement input options. As we mentioned at the beginning, what I'm going to show you now, this would be only available in the professional version, but we are going to see some dimension color coding, some CMM input, and also the slight difference in how we can export this out with our final results. So going into our inspection project, I'm going to close this project and I'm going to open an existing project. This is a project that I've already started. I went through the ballooning process. Everything is really set up. As we can see here, I have my characteristic tree that's all set and ready to go. Everything's just been ballooned. We have a couple of options on how we can deal with measured data. The first option is we can manually type measurement data into this section in the bottom right-hand corner. If I am within 0 to 74% of my tolerance, it will show up green. If I am over my tolerance, it's going to show red. And if I am between 75 and 100%, it's going to show yellow. Those tolerance bands are customizable. That's not something that's set in stone. You can change those depending on how you want those tolerance zones to be. This is going to provide me with my color coding not only here on the side, also inside of my physical drawing, and it's going to be there when we export. I'm not going to export quite yet. That's manually entering data. This measurement input section also fully supports the use of digital calipers. If you use digital calipers that have a USB input into a computer, all you have to do is measure the item, hit the button, and it's going to populate in the cell that's selected. That's a great streamlined way to guarantee that your data is going to be very accurate and you're not going to mistype something in or anything like that. Now, the third option is the CMM data import. I'm going to delete these items. Now we have an option for the CMM data import. The SOLIDWORKS Inspection Professional supports a large variety of CMM software export files. These are typically exported as a text file. So you see we have some of the major players such as Calypso, several Faro export templates. There's GeoMeasure, there's MicroView, the OGP Smart Scopes, several for PCDMIS, depending on which version of PCDMIS you're running, QC Calc. There's several items in here, and if for some reason you're running a software that is not in there, we can contact SOLIDWORKS and request that they put a new template in. That's a very simple process. I have a file similar to PCDMIS, so just make sure we choose the correct template because they do have their own syntax as they export. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and add a file. And I recommend going through and auto assign. And you can choose from a combination of these different checkboxes. For this one, I'm going to use item and my nominal value. And this is going to go through and match what I've already ballooned with data inside of my CMM file. And we'll see all of that color coding. Now, this does a really good job of matching items up. There may be one or two items that had maybe a slightly different syntax, but we can also add additional items and establish those manually if we have to. There's a couple in here that we can do that with, number 5 and number 11. And we can easily start populating all of those items. Now from here, let's take a look at what this exportation looks like. I'm going to export this. And we'll be able to see what the color coding looks like as we export it directly to Excel. A little bit more information here, just because of the CMM data, so I'll give it just a moment. And we can see how this is going to export. So again, see the same information, our nominal, our upper and lower tolerancing, plus the results and the color coding for this. Now, if we have multiple results columns in SOLIDWORKS inspection, this template will automatically export multiple columns. It's going to export whatever is there. So it's a great way to save some data in a digital format that we can always go back to. It's not uncommon for me to see these columns dated. It gives companies a baseline on how this was inspected during certain times. It's great for historical data and for saving everything inside of this single SOLIDWORKS inspection file. So with the measurement input, we saw a visual pass-fail with the green, the yellow, and the red indicating if something is within certain tolerances. We looked at some of the digital measurement integration, and we saw that we can actually store measured data for future use inside of a single file. The inspection projects save as a single unique file type, and all this information can be stored inside of that. Makes data management very easy as you have more and more projects. So we took a look at quite a few items in our webinar today. So we looked at the add-in, which works inside of SOLIDWORKS. We looked at the standalone product for those of you who are using PDFs and possibly DWGs, and then some of the input measurement options in the professional version. And what we saw is this product really does allow for consistent documentation. There are quite a bit of time savings that our customers are reporting to us having moved to this product. They're also reporting an increase in data accuracy. There's not as many errors being made, especially when files are being handed off between different people. And what's really great is we have digital records for future reference.